or not? Or are you all right?
They will probably turn it off in any case because they have a video that they show on the intro.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I'll stop share then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All good? Everyone happy? Right. See you later. Well, a very good day to everyone listening in and joining us from across the world. We've got a wonderful lineup, something I really look forward to. My name is Pierre Pienaar, and I'm the president of the World Packaging Organization. And it's my privilege to moderate this event today. For some of you, it's early morning, and for some of us, it's in the late afternoon, and even some in the evening. But great to have a wonderful lineup of speakers joining us today from across the world. And I'll introduce them as they come up to do their presentation. We're covering quite a nice broad spectrum of various aspects of pharmaceuticals. We're looking at the smart packaging side of it. We're looking at the safety side of it. And then finishing up with looking at from an award system. In other words, how do we improve our packaging? And one way is through competitions and awards. So with no further ado, and just to let you know that we are joined by over 1,000 people on YouTube from across the world, from all the continents. Some of the countries that I see are Brazil, Canada, USA, Europe, across Europe, across Asia, various countries there, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, South Africa, Egypt, Morocco, New Zealand, and Australia. So a very warm welcome to all of you listening in today. So with no further ado, our first speaker is Andrew Manley. Andrew, obviously born in the UK, but lives now in the Netherlands. And I'm sure many of you have seen Andrew on various stages and various episodes, and certainly the last 2 years during COVID has represented various formats. One of them is the UK's Processing and Packaging Machinery Association, which he helped to found many years ago, as he did with the Active and Intelligent Packaging Industry Association. Which is where he is driving this particular presentation of his. He has a wide experience, not only in sustainability, but right across the flexible packaging industry. He's been a journalist for over 40 years. He has written numerous, I think numerous is an understatement, of articles over many years. And I just really enjoy listening to him because Andrew brings the up-to-date aspects of where we are in relation to smart packaging. Now, I don't want to take away any thunder that from Andrew, other than to say, I can guarantee that everyone listening in will learn something from smart packaging. And there's a big drive to smart packaging, the use thereof, across the packaging industry, across the world. Andrew Manley, thank you for joining us, and over to you.
Thank you. Share. Let's see, where are we? Okay, I hope we can all hear me.
We can see you, and we can see your screen.
Right. First of all, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Pierre and WPO. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you to Informa Markets for staging this excellent program. I hope I can live up to the billing I've just had from Pierre. Wow. Anyway, we haven't got a lot of time, so I won't mess around too much. What I'm going to show you, and what I like to do in these presentations, is talk about some of the things that are impacting and causing developments in the smart packaging arena, specifically today for pharmaceuticals. And I'm going to show you some real examples or stuff that's in pilot or stuff that's about to be launched. I don't try and talk too much about theory and speculation. So everything that you see is either in there or about to be in there, or is coming to your shop or your business soon. Very briefly about IPEA, for those of you who don't know it. Am I not moving? Why am I not moving my screen?
If you click on the screen and then go to your forward button, it will work.
Yeah, that's it. We're done now. Sorry. Thank you. So the association was founded in 2011, so it's 10 years old this year. We now have 1,800 members. We have a global reach. It's an ecosystem of a very broad range of people, from brand owners and retailers through to manufacturers of smart technology, through to GS1, NFC forum. We produce an online newsletter twice a month. Certainly, obviously, like most organisers of these things, the events we've been running this year have been virtual. We just held ours a couple of weeks ago, and we'll go live again in 2022, we hope. We've also been involved in various projects, such as Nanopack and Tag It Smart, which are developing smart packaging technologies for the wider world. Here are some of the brands that are involved in our organization. You'll recognize many of them. I could probably make 2 globes out of that, and you'd still recognize lots of the names. This graphic is one of the oldest graphics that I've got in my pack, but it tells you very clearly what smart packaging does. Along the middle, you see where it actually acts on. So food and beverage, pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, and it's converting and packaging, logistics, retail, and consumer user. Above the line is what it does, so consumer loyalty, mobile commerce, brand protection, track, trace, and control. Below the line is how we do that, with sensors, with Internet of Things, with antimicrobials, printed electronics, smart labels, inks, NFC tags. So it's a broad range of technologies. Today, specifically, we're going to be talking about trends in pharmaceuticals. And as I said just a minute or two ago, we are really talking about the latest things that I can find and deliver to you. So a lot of this stuff is very hot off the press. But let's just talk very, very briefly about what's driving smart packaging development in pharma. Well, of course, traceability and authentication is key. We've got lots of regulation and legislation coming along there. Anti-counterfeiting, market diversion is a very important aspect. Compliance and consumer engagement, and I put them together. Compliance for patients is very important, but engaging the consumer in new ways to explain the efficacy of the drug, the origin of the drug, how it works, and also very important, deliver accurate data on care and compliance. And I've tucked in at the bottom here, development of new materials and technologies, because these can act upon have a very impactful effect on some of the developments that we're going to be talking about. And as I say at the moment, at the bottom, all or some of these are interconnected. And I should stress that a lot of this enablement is being done because we now have digital activity, digital printing, digital identification in RFID, NFC and stuff like that. Of course, the COVID factor has been predominant in the whole arena of pharmaceuticals for 18 months, nearly 2 years now. What a pity that is, but there you go. Vaccines and PPE security has had a profound impact on the supply chain, as well as on delivering normal CPGs. Now we have more test distribution, wider vaccine rollouts, and they put more pressure on everyone. And of course, different regions and products have widely different dynamics. So you have to have different solutions for that. And we feel that smart packaging can offer flexible solutions. How are we offering those solutions? Through anti-counterfeiting authentication, better hygiene, traceability, and of course, very importantly, real-time data on what's happening out there. Here are just a few, and now I'm going into the meat of my presentation. Here are a few examples of how actual products are acting on these areas of pharmaceuticals necessity for delivering the things that patients and the companies need. So here's a brand protection suite, Systec. It's not brand new. It's very adaptable. It provides serialization, traceability, and digital product security. The beauty of this is you don't change anything on your pack. It actually identifies small differences in the codes that already exist on your pack to make them a unique pack. As the guy, Steve Talent, who's part of this organization, says, PPE test kits and vaccines will be counterfeited. And of course, he makes a very valid point. Internet is the perfect distribution channel for counterfeits. So, you know, adding this kind of security level is imperative. This one, again, is not a particularly new thing, but what I like about it is it's a classic example of how digital printing is having a huge impact on our industry. The actual action that we're talking about is that tiny little bar by the arrow on the label, and that is a few millimeters thick, but it's a very, very dense code. And you cannot copy it, because if you even try to copy it on a decent printing machine, you will lose definition. And therefore, it's a security feature that's easily added at scale, at speed on existing production lines. Just with a nod to where we are in our regional thing today, South Asia and Southeast Asian companies are stepping up the fight. Tech Mahindra and StayTwig are doing a blockchain-based traceability solution for vaccines called Vaccine Ledger. It predicts and prevents failures in the supply chain, which of course is very important when you have supply chains that are not always as sophisticated as some of the ones that we have in the West here. Honeywell India have done a digital authentication technology, and it's printing and substrates are easily identified and difficult to alter. Again, a fairly simple solution, but sophisticated enough to really help with anti-counterfeiting. And it's validated through an app which also gathers market intelligence. So back to that data gathering that I talked about earlier. SML Group, very simple solution, RFID inlay on single dose drugs. It's based on an NXP tag. NXP, one of the biggest semiconductor manufacturers in the world, has a very small form factor, so it can fit on vials and can read through liquid and glass. Dose ID accredited. I'll talk about Dose ID later. Rapid inventory counting, and as I said, it's in dense RFID populations. So you've got a lot of vaccines together. Then sometimes it's difficult to read individual tags, but this one has been specifically designed to make sure that you can do that. That has an effect on the read range, but it's still about 1 meter, which is okay in this kind of environment. Lisco systems, again, are tracking for COVID-19 vaccine vials, uses RFID again, has a Bluetooth low energy battery for real-time management of the temperatures within coolers and freezers, and the emphasis on real-time. It automates data collection. It looks at authenticity, expiry date, even dilution levels, so that you get the right dilution on your vaccine. And they're integrated in the drug companies' printed vaccine labels. So that's very important, again, an on-production line solution. and the software manages, if you like, the first in, first out, ensuring that the vaccines are used in the right sequence. So a lot more sophisticated, but a very important way of doing things in this world of vaccines that we live in. This, again, a slightly different thing. Not, again, wildly new, introduced late in 2020, I believe. Smart Track and Avery Dennison and Smart Track are now the same company, and it's a blockchain powered NFC tag. So again, you're looking at the whole journey of the product. Interestingly, you can also, one of the facilities on listing is that you can view the purchase price of PPE against global averages, so you can avoid price manipulation, which is, I think, quite important in the world that we live in. Simple condition monitoring. These are actually less simple. They're more sophisticated. They do real-time tracking of batches of any kind of pharmaceutical that needs to be kept in a certain condition in terms of temperature, and you can track this remotely, and it gives you a GPS location. Both of these companies offer similar types of product. American Thermal are probably more in the American and Western markets. Blue Log do a lot more in the Eastern markets, I'm told. Condition monitoring, again, this is another TTI, another time temperature indicator. Specifically for vaccines, it alerts you if temperatures rise above 7, and it's very simple. You single-use thing. Does the same job as the other ones that I showed you just on the slide before, but is a much simpler system. And then down on the bottom there, you've got Xidius Verify, which enables a scratch code printed under a scratchable service, and patients verify the code and app or via the website. That also gives you a time temperature reality check. Now, this company are very deep into development of compliance technology for talking directly to the patient. Palladio, they're an Italian company. They've just launched this Future Med program. This is a smart blister. It's in a paper collar. It's called PluggyMed. It's in prototype stage at the moment, but it uses a little device that you get and can program into your telephone to give the patients an overview of their therapeutic program, as well as tell the people who are looking after them, their caregivers, whether they're using their drugs properly and not missing their doses. China, again, a big name in medical labeling, have also worked on compliance monitoring. Specifically for clinical trials. It's, again, a smart blister and smart kit boxes. It's an electronic solution, offers real-time data, and the data is automatically stored. Matching data platforms enable visualization and analysis, and it's an open platform. They hope to make it available widely. This one, connecting to consumers, is a clarity of instruction. This has been around for a while and is basically a freely available to certain people downloadable system, which will translate the product leaflet, the pharmaceutical product leaflet, into 40 different languages. So if you're hard of hearing, you can't read, or you have sight impairment, then you can actually use this to actually access the information you need about the drug that you're about to take. This one is exactly the same thing, but is a little bit more current. This is called My Health Box. They're introducing an e-leaflet, so you can actually only have the leaflet that you need to have, rather than the huge, great roll of things that you always see in packs these days. It's accessed via QR, so you get an audio version if you want it, but you still get the paper version to comply with current regulations. Back to Palladio, this one specifically for clinical trials. It's called Active Cradle, Active Tray, and it really changes the information on the pack in real time via an e-paper label on the pack. So the people who are actually dispensing this, the pharmacy, can actually change the information on the, or the clinical trial specialist can change the information by using the device that they can have, and they can only do that. There's only them that are allowed to actually change the information, and they just literally point the device with the new information at the label, and it will change things like expiry dates or dose instructions. Aptar, this is the new material area where you see antimicrobial and helps to protect it against moisture ingress and environmental conditions. It's called Active Tab, and it's really designed for at-home and over-the-counter self-diagnostic kits, and it integrates the actual stuff is integrated into the dips, and or in this case onto the actual cassette that you get. Now, new growing markets. I see growing markets in the CBD and vapes area. Whether you classify them as specifically pharmaceuticals, I'm really not sure. But the emerging legal cannabis and vape industries are highly susceptible to counterfeiting. And there are a number of different solutions available to actually help track and traceability. Verify Me have just been given a big order for its track and trace, which is a hidden code on a label. YPB produce tracers. I'm sure you may have heard of them. They're an Australian company. CanCheck is a free blockchain-based CBD tracker, but it's not QR-based. It's actually done through an app or a website. And Applied DNA Sciences and TrueTrace offer a blockchain and molecular tagging recognition system. So you're actually identifying the CBD with a molecular tag. Again, lots of things, different options to do the same thing, more or less. Growing markets. Here's an example of a wellness vitamins area. Nanotech Security Corp using a secure optics security feature on a ginseng product. It's called Lumichrome. It's basically a color shifting label with printed logos and trackable serial numbers. It's authentication through color transition when you view the label at an angle. It's very hard to simulate, so a very effective anti-counterfeit measure. Cost reduction is very important. We have all these wonderful solutions, but can we afford them? There's certainly lots and lots of people working on this. Avery Dennison Schreiner and another company that does printed electronics called Pragmatic are actually doing a lot of work in the area of bringing down what they call cost-conscious smart technology. So bringing down the cost of an inlay or a tag. And here's an example of how far we've come. This thing, not specifically for pharmaceuticals, but talking things already produce a tag for less than 1/3 of a cent. And we're looking at them producing something as low as 1 cent by 2020, or 1/10 of a cent rather. And they're the sophisticated ones, not the cheap and simple ones. And so they are really potentially usable in the OTC pharmaceutical sector. Why am I showing you a bottle of whiskey? Well, apart from the fact that I like whiskey, although it's far too early in the morning to drink it, new materials are important. And this is a seaweed extract, which you could possibly use to replace some of the material that we currently use on capsules. I think the important thing is it's degradable, and it also uses far less energy and cuts CO2 emissions compared with other forms. Now, I'm not quite sure whether that works with the current use of capsule technology, but it's certainly worth investigating. Regulations, everyone knows about the regulations. DSCSA is coming in. It's been delayed, but it really is going to hit the deck fairly soon. FMD is around. Pharma track and trace regulations exist in, or it soon will, in many countries. China, Turkey, Russia, the whole place is going crazy with regulation. And we still have weak legislative protection in some countries and regions. So the risk to patients can continue to be high. Are we ready? Probably the answer at that is in some places, yes, in some places, no. We shall see as 2022 evolves. Things to watch in technology. We've talked about them, so I won't go into them. RFID, TTI, Markets, biopharmaceuticals, synthetics, and sensitive pharmaceuticals all need better protection and all need monitoring. The CBD, wellness and vitamins markets are growing like topsy, but the aim would be to try and extend some of these technologies to lower price points on the pharmaceutical scale. Of course, things to watch. Everybody's talking about standardization at the moment so that we can scale some of these technologies. Brands and retailers want certainty of the product, and an ability to scale the technology. So we've got to actually come up with solutions that can work at scale. GS1 is the solution which is universally applicable, not just to pharmaceuticals, but it can be applied to pharmaceuticals. And we are seeing companies committing to rolling the whole thing out by 2025, 26. Those ideas are consortium, so there's action in the pharmaceutical space to actually work together to bring solutions in this area. I won't talk about it in detail now because I see my time is about up, but we're certainly working together to try and provide solutions and certified solutions to the drug industry. I look forward to welcoming you at our live event in 2022, but there's a live event here at the moment. So thank you very much to CPHI and to the World Packaging Organization for letting me talk to you very fast for 20 odd minutes. Thank you and cheerio for now.
Thank you, Andrew. You certainly covered off an enormous amount in that allotted time. I know we put you under I guess, undue pressure, but thank you. And I did promise the listeners and the viewers that they would see new things and they would learn from your presentation, as I always do. I'm always intrigued and certainly amazed at every time that I listen to your presentation, you always got a new deck of ideas and examples coming in from across the world. So there's no lack of examples out there. I think it's going to lead to a lot of questions. And while we talk questions, we are going to get together at the end of the 3 presentations where you, as the listeners and viewers, are able to put any question you like applicable to what we're discussing today on the chat show. And I will then pick those questions up there and present them to the various panelists at the end. So I do encourage you to put down in the chat show anything that you'd like to ask them. Andrew, thank you very much for that. So we move on to our next speaker, and while Chakravarti is getting ready, I just want to remind everyone that this has been put together by Informa Markets, CPHI, that focuses on the exhibition side of the pharmaceutical sector. And they are very, very strong in across India and parts of Asia. So thank you to Informa Markets. If Informa Markets can just cross and bring Chakravarti on, that's good. All right. So for those of you, and I'm sure there are some of you that do know Chakravarti AVPS, Chakravarti is the global ambassador for the World Packaging Organization, and he lives in India. He's certainly a figure across the subcontinent and well-known, certainly in India and those regions around there, but he crisscrosses the world when he's allowed to, and there's no COVID. Certainly he's been curtailed in his movements in the past 2 years. Besides being the global ambassador for the WPO, he's also CEO of his own company, Ecobliss India. So he focuses predominantly on paper printing and packaging and has a wealth of experience in that field. And when I say wealth, over 30 years involved in that particular industry. So he has your chance to put all those difficult questions to him, and he will no doubt have the answer. He's also the most influential leader in the packaging industry, and he was awarded that by the by the packaging industry in India. He is also honorary advisor to Pharmaceutical, and they are involved in the exporting of pharmaceuticals across the world. And for those who don't know, India exports an enormous amount of pharmaceuticals across the globe. He's also president of the Indo-Netherlands Business Association as well, and he has been chairman of the Indian Institute of Packaging in Hyderabad. He certainly is well known in packaging circles, and I've certainly known him for many, many years. He is always, and those of you who follow him on various social media platforms will see that he has an international presence, and is always presenting at in different formats across different platforms. If he's not lecturing, then he's chairing events or is on television. And it's great to have someone with his experience here with us this morning. Chakravarti, I could go on and on. I mean, you want an extensive CV, and people need to know that. They need to know, who you are and what you stand for. But most of all, is that you are passionate about packaging. And that is what I like. Chakravarti, I'll hand over to you, and you'll be talking to us specifically on those areas that pertain to the safety side of pharmaceutical packaging. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, dear Professor Piana, dear Pia. We fondly call you. Yeah, that elaborate introduction puts me in little embarrassment. So I'm losing some words to begin with. Nevertheless, it's very honor to see my good friend Mr. Manley and also Mr. Sohatala along with me on this platform, great platform. Thanks, CPHI. And as you all know, greetings to all of you people, over 1,000 people across the world. Good morning, good afternoon, and late good evening also, the Far East people. And I'm really delighted to be on this platform once again, especially CPHI, how much I've been involved almost for a couple of decades. CPHI is a worldwide brand all over. And we just finished a few days ago. Actually, this year it could be the largest, I can say. Normally, the CPHI worldwide or CPHI China are also equally or little more bigger. The CPHI India, we had around 40,000 visitors post-COVID norms, you can see. And what an amazing, more than 500-600 exhibitors, host of CEOs and several people congregated to share the knowledge. It's a 3 days, it's a pharmaceutical festival. Nevertheless, coming to this today's topic, in fact, most of the talk has been done by my friend, Mr. Manley, which is related to the safety of medicines. Of course, the medicine needs to be smart to ascertain the safety angle to the patient ultimately. So Andrew has already touched upon it. My friends, as I keep telling you on several platforms, as Pierre endorses that as well, we are in a life-saving and life-sustaining industry. Of course, worldwide, we have several industries, but pharmaceutical industry has a very noble objective. Of course, it's a profit-making industry. Of course, we have some flaws like any other industry, but that doesn't deter us to really feel proud about the very segment of what we belong to. The simple reason I tell you, we all are really struggling for the last 2 years almost because of the pandemic, the deadly COVID-19 with several mutations already being introduced by the original coronavirus. But imagine in the absence of the pharmaceutical innovations, in the absence of the first line of defense equipment, first line of defense medicines, and of course the final nail in the coffin, the vaccines. Just imagine in the absence of all this, what would have been today's situation, my dear friends. It is just unimaginable to even think out about the situation, because you have live example around 500 years ago, also 1500 years ago. There were examples of more than 200 million deaths and 20 million deaths respectively due to the deadly black pandemic and also the plague and other areas wherein the internet was not available, the vaccine was not available in time. Every vaccine used to take almost 10 years to get into the production. But hail our colleagues in this pharmaceutical industry for their enormous work for the mankind. But without that, we could not have been in this situation, talking to each other, either physically or in the hybrid, with all of us together on the same platform worldwide. So once again, I feel proud to be a stakeholder of this life-saving and life-sustaining industry. And not wasting much time, I would quickly go to the presentation, a small one, but though, pardon me, because I'm doing from an iPad, whether I'm visible through this or not, let me check. Let me start sharing the screen. You know.
Okay, it's coming up. It's up.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful. So very nice. Thank you very much once again, my dear friends, for your patience, and thanks to CPHI and my colleagues, WPO, for this wonderful opportunity to talk a little bit on the safety aspects of the medicine packaging. Unlike my friend Manly, I would like to go more into the basics, why a safety is required at all medicines. Because the manufacturers of the medicines, that is all of us, or the pharmaceutical companies, what is the ultimate objective? To invent a right kind of molecule, right kind of drug for a particular disease, and then manufacture it, and throughout the supply chain, see through it perfectly that it doesn't lose its efficacy, and also it doesn't be copied, it shouldn't be copied down, and finally it reaches to the patient's hands, and it doesn't end there simply by reaching the patient hand, and it should ensure that the correct dose has to be adhered, correct dose has to be ingested into the patient of all ages. So the safety aspects are required throughout the supply chain gamut, not just in the manufacturing. Well, my dear friends, the pharma safeguards health, as I was telling you. Who denies that? And medication errors can result in significant morbidity, mortality, and of course, more costly care, which we have been seeing from ages. So a small error will really lead to major fatality. Of course, even small errors will lead to major product recalls from the market, which is also very detrimental for the pharmaceutical companies. So that is how a small video.
Sunday night, my young lad and I were watching CBC News.
Watching a story on The National about our investigation into pharmacy errors. The next day, Debbie McDonald's son noticed his new prescription had the wrong pills in it. Instead of getting Accutane for acne, the pharmacist dispensed Acupril, a blood pressure medication.
The young man is in aviation school. He is flying solo. It could have been very, very tragic.
In a months-long CBC Marketplace investigation, we talked to pharmacy insiders about why mistakes happen. 2 pharmacists agreed to talk on camera, provided we conceal their identities. Have you ever said, gee, I hope I didn't make a mistake?
Every day.
They tell us many drugstore chains are imposing productivity targets they have to meet.
Prescriptions per day, prescriptions per hour, number of labor hours per prescription.
Pharmacists fill more than 600 million prescriptions every year in Canada. In drugstore chains, big box stores, grocery stores. Competition, our insiders say, is fierce, and pressure to increase profits may compromise safety. So you know pharmacists who've had patients who've died because of a medication error?
Yeah, I'd say it's everybody's biggest fear that it'll ever happen to them.
Sunday night, my young...
Awful, isn't it? Really tragic. And my dear friends, hold your heart. It's very common. Many of us think that it happens randomly once in a while, but they keep happening, and there is every possibility. It's only that it go unnoticed. Imagine, we just play with the lives of the people. And what's the solution? Look at it. Even a pharmacist's error led to fatality. Is it really his error? Whose error? Look at the screen. Whose error? And the packaging similarities are a common source of errors. Look at it. Look the screen carefully. And no wonder, not only in the developing countries and the underdeveloped countries, even in the rich countries, the pharmacists tend to give a wrong medicine to a patient. Look-alike packaging. Look at this. How clearly. And the medication dose regime is 12 hours and the other one is 24 hours. And not much difference. Allergy medication the same, but with different doses. And same brand name for different products. These are okay. It is common. It is common because when you promote a brand, you wish to promote the brand altogether for different products. But how you want to differentiate it to the market, that makes a huge difference, my dear fellow pharmaceutical companies. I hope people take care and note of it. You look at this. Each are different. Migraine pain, period pain, this back pain, all are different. But you are simply differentiating by a simple color differentiation. I'm not sure how much. And misleading brand name, COVID medication or immunity booster. Okay, this has some regulations that people won't allow you to market, but nevertheless, you still find them not just in Asian countries, a lot of countries. They simply say it's a COVID medicine, but who testifies it? It's a simple immunity booster. Really working upon exploiting the weaknesses of the patients. Hidden drug fact labels, that's more important. Sometimes the peel here, look at it when you're talking, when you're looking at the arrow on the round, who knows where is the peeling coming from? How you educate the patient about this, the features on the drug packaging. It's very important. Strengths that differ among oral dosage forms. We already discussed about this. Look at this. 50 mg per soft gel and 25 mg per tablet. It's both are different. And imagine if you have a wrong strength, so taking as per the dosage, what would be happening? Lack of highly visible warnings. Many times we, for the lack of the space on the label or on the rear side of the blister or a bottle or anywhere, we often, pharmaceutical manufacturers neglect in positioning the highly visible the warnings visibly, and thereby causing a lot of accidents actually. But yeah, those now we're talking about the digital labeling with the smartphone and our digital labeling, which comes even in vernacular. I think there should be a harmonization worldwide. Let us see how things go in the future. Hidden ingredients that may cause problems. Can you imagine whose mistake it is? If you see, this is a simple diarrhea, upset stomach reliever. It's a simple OTC medicine probably. And if you really see the drug facts, bismuth subsalicylate 262 mg, which actually upset stomach reliever. And then you have another allergy alerts also. And who reads these alerts? It clearly says that contains salicylate. Do not take if you are allergic to salicylates, including aspirin. Oh, I do not know. And taking other salicylate products. So this one, who will tell the patient? By simply giving in a microtext is that our job is over. And sometimes you have drug interactions, which normally we don't even believe, for antibiotics and birth control pills, antidepressants and migraine, antibiotics and vitamins, isotretinoin and minorclinic. And you have dangerous drugs and food interactions also. This is another problem. If you see, I tried to put some sildenafil and grapefruit, calcium and antibiotics, antithyroid drugs, and iodine, grapefruit and statin, and so on, because they have adverse reactions when these drugs are taken along with the respective foods. So enough education needs to be there. Adverse effects when you mix medication with alcohol. This is another big problem. Many times we think that nothing will happen. One dose, okay, let's have it. Let's have our couple of 2-3 pegs of our whiskey, and then I take the medicine. Yeah, many times you still escape, but it's not the case, my dear friends. Sometimes it doesn't. It doesn't leave you just like that. It's a lot more. It's not so easy. And common medications that shouldn't be mixed with alcohol. We have a lot of the allergy, cold medications, a host of medicines, anxiety medications, arthritis medications, which commonly we use all these cough medication, depression, and these drugs we keep using. Then of course, the needy people. At the same time, we don't get rid of the alcohol habit. Maybe a couple of pegs, it's still okay. We carry over. But yeah, you need to be careful. Lookalike drug name errors. Imagine this is another great, really confused drug names. This is another one. If you see, of course, hydrogen and hydroxygen. Who reads? Can you differentiate between these two? The only difference is the tall lettering, which was prescribed by the regulatory FDA. Still, a common man, I don't think, can make out the difference. Packaging error could lead to pregnancy, and this happened several times at this point, and it happening repeatedly. You know, the cycle of the 28 tablets for a woman. In the beginning, the first 2-3 days will be different, and last 28, 27, 28 is different, because strengths are completely different. One has to be a placebo and one has to be a high strength. Just imagine if the orientation of the pills are reversed, what would be the ultimate result? No one can imagine. Well, pharmaceutical packaging, we talk about the basics, safeguards drug efficacy. And despite all this I have told, but we have come a long way, my dear friends. Let's not be disheartened, because a century ago, how pharmaceutical was, and today how the packaging technology consortially helps the pharmaceutical industry also, how it has become an integral part of the pharmaceutical. Even an innovation in the packaging technology has led to innovations of the new molecules, just because the efficacy of the drugs can be safeguarded for a particular period of time. That's how it has become a very important aspect in the. So the pharmaceutical packaging should enable the right person, right documentation, right time, right route of indication, those entire supply chain regime. And common issues that arise in packaging of pharmaceutical products, we're just talking about wrong labeling. Don't want to elaborate much on that. Blood pressure drug recall after labeling mix-up, drug manufacturer recalls hydrochlorothiazide, contrary to packaged medicine inside is spironolactone. Inaccurate braille, this is another great problem. Many people, very often we neglect this, because why braille is required? The people who needed it. So if the braille is not proper, you're not doing justice to your medicines, right? Translation mistakes, this is another problem actually. Several times we don't even know, the manufacturer doesn't even know whether you look at the Arabic version there in the red squares. So the meaning completely changes, and the patient will understand it completely different. And the coding errors, you can see there are a lot of coding errors. Of course, the smart packaging has a lot of solutions to address these issues, as my friend Manley told. Foreign matter contamination, this is another one. During the manufacturing, it's very often they keep happening here. Of course, we talk about the packaging, better quality of life through better packaging for more people repeatedly. The product mix-ups, product recall, it results in product recall. The direct cost of a recall, you can see the amazing assembling the crisis team, removing the part, how a recall has to be addressed. Indirect costs are many: litigation, stock value decline, fines, loss, industry impact. But end of the day, sometimes it's affecting the people also. Counterfeit pharmaceuticals, we just mentioned how counterfeits can be eliminated by packaging innovations. Fake and real, can you imagine both? A common man can never be able to find out. It's a Roche drug. Counterfeiting in pharma industry, this is quite an interesting slide, but I don't want to elaborate much. You can find it later on, how counterfeiting is killing the mankind. So the packaging innovations always come in front. To child protection, how about your kids' safety? This is another great subject. We talk about the children who are not supposed to take the medicines. If they are accessing that, what happens? So that's why the CPSA has led this child residence regulations. Look at this. Are these pills or candies? So partly we are also responsible. So why we are making this? Pill or candy? On the left you see aspirin, and on the right you see sweet and sour. Which is pill, which is candy? It's very hard to find out. So did you know 86% of the emergency visits for medicine poisoning were due to child getting adult medicines? So medicine safety for children. Where are children finding medicines? 27% ground or misplaced. How children is accessing? This is an interesting one. So mostly the responsibility lies with us also. Why in the first place we are keeping the medicines in access to the children? That's more. So the child resistance packaging is never just a first line of defense only. It is not foolproof, as you all know. So onus lies with us also to keep the medicines away from the children. Of course, there are good child resistance packagings which are very 100% child safe, but at the same time 100% senior friendly also on the anvil. Packaging design should prevent the medication errors. So we keep saying, always keep medications instructions handy. It's important actually. The patient has to know what medicines he is consuming, what medicines has been prescribed to him, what he is taking, the dosages, and he should be in a possession of all the information. That's our primary responsibility. Yeah, as we see that when you want to differentiate this tall man lettering, people see, but still I have my own doubts. Even the tall man lettering, how it differentiates in the customer's minds. Best practice is to avoid medication errors, separate storage, auxiliary labeling, standard prescribing preparation and administration. Yeah.
Before you pop another pill or dose another spoonful, stop, look, and look again. In the last 2 years, the I-Team has found hundreds of errors in Texas. The wrong dose of medication sent a 3-month-old to ICU for 5 days with 100 times the prescribed amount. The wrong strength rushed a 7-year-old to the ER with heart problems. The wrong drug left another patient with an increased risk of cancer. Prescribed this, the pharmacist gave that. Look at the similar names.
The pills look almost identical.
And look at these similar pills. The shape, color, size. Confusion over them sickened Linda Lilly of Lake Tawakoni.
Felt nauseated, and then the next day started just getting cold sweats, unusual pain. By the 3rd day, I was debilitated. By this time, it was very scary.
Lilly discovered her pharmacist gave her Gemfibrozil, a cholesterol medication, rather than gabapentin, her routine pain medication.
Exactly the same bottle. They both start with G. The labels look very similar. Honestly, I really didn't think it looked different.
They messed this one up royally.
The I-Team showed the records of disciplined pharmacists to Dr. Marv Shepard, the former director of the Pharmaceutical School at UT Austin.
They're having troubles because of the pressures of the work environment.
He says Texas pharmacists are overworked, tired, and under the stress of staying open 24 hours. They stock 5,000 drugs, dispense 300 prescriptions daily, and make 2 to 4 mistakes every day. Nationwide, he says it results in 100,000 patients dying every.
Well, it's partly due to the fatigue of the pharmacists also, as you see, but who is the culprit? Who is the culprit? So all the stakeholders have to really stop, look, and look again. So it's everybody's responsibility how we can avoid these major accidents. It's man-made accidents. And they go unnoticed. And just now we saw some stats, 100,000 deaths just for the negligence. But negligence is not the pharmacist negligence. It's every stakeholder's negligence or ignorance, whatsoever you call. So we need to stop, look, and look again, my dear friends. But not all that bad. Packaging is your second physician already. I used to say this quotation given by me, packaging will be your second physician a couple of years ago. If you see my friend Mr. Manley's presentation, it's actually replicating, the packaging is replicating your physician. Most importantly, post-COVID norms, when the prescriptions are being remote, the high-ended video calls with, of course, supported by proper diagnostic reports, and the physician is actually seeing you online in a video call, is prescribing not just the pain management medicines, but also the advanced medicines, of course, supported fully by your diagnostic reports. And the augmented reality has come into our doorstep already. So the packaging contains everything. It's not going to tell you just what it contains, what is the dosage it has to be taken, how many times, how many pills have to be taken, etc., etc. But hold your heart. Very soon, my friends Manley and Pierre will endorse me in the future. AR, the advanced AR will come to your doorstep, puts a three-dimensional hologram, your assistant or whatsoever call your physician comes onto your doorstep on your package, and he's going to interact with you live. Yes, he's going to interact with you live, ask you questions, and answer you there and there just with your smartphone, my dear friends. So that's the kind of technology. Let us hail our packaging and also the pharmaceutical industry. With that, I would like to end this small presentation. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I always feel pride to be part of this big, large, the apex body of the World Packaging Organization, always to share a few thoughts and to share a little knowledge what I have with all of you. Thank you very much once again.
Thanks very much, Chakravarti. And certainly, you know, when you see it in the way that you presented it there now, you realize how much can in fact go wrong, which is really a little rather disconcerting and somewhat of a worry. I'm sure there are going to be lots of questions for you in a moment, but thank you very much for presenting that. Very much an eye-opener, I'm sure, for many people. You know, we take for granted that the things are correct, and then, you know, as you said, look, check, and recheck. That's certainly on everyone's mind since your presentation. So thank you for that. Right, we move on to the last one, which is to be given by Mrs. Soha Atla. Now, just so that we all understand, in terms of, you know, why is she presenting in this manner and on this matter. Now, Soha has an incredible amount of experience in marketing, in food safety, industrial development, and across, you know, right across the Middle East and North Africa and Asia. And I've been privy to know what she does because I've been there in that area, in those regions, along with her, as she goes about her enormous amount of passion that she gives to the industry. I spoke about passion when I was talking about Chakravarti, and Soha is no different, in a different, slightly different vein, and because she's more on the the design side, more on the labeling side. And so she brings a completely different element, a very important one. In fact, what we've just seen in Chakravarti's presentation, and it'd be very good in question time to cross-question Soha on some of those aspects that Chakravarti raised there. Soha is an expert in her field, so much so that the United Nations Industrial Development Organization uses her international expertise in helping, countries like Mongolia, Morocco, Pakistan, Jordan, Oman, Egypt, and go on, Bahrain, Tunisia, right across that region. She's well known in the packaging industry. But most of all, and this is the part that I enjoy, and that is that she is responsible in the World Packaging Organizations for conferences and exhibitions. In addition to that, and this is where I'm going to, and that she is responsible for the World Star Awards program. This is and she'll tell you herself, the creme de la creme of all awards systems in packaging across the world. That is her responsibility. She's got lots to share in this department, so I don't want to take anything away from her. I know she's very strong in her own area in Lebanon, but I would say that it's beyond Lebanon. It's right across that Gulf regions that she really brings an element of value to the packaging industry. Soha, over to you.
Thank you, Pierre, for this introduction. I'm very happy to be with you all in this important seminar on pharmaceutical. As Pierre said, my experience is in marketing and packaging design. But as Chakravarti was discussing, and Andrew, packaging design is also very important for the pharmaceutical industry to avoid error and sometimes to avoid even human death. So I will start with my presentation. Just give me. Okay.
Yeah, it's up. So all good?
All good. Okay. So today I will start my presentation first. I know that Andrew and Chakravarti talked about some trends, so I will refocus on the global trends that are governing the packaging for the pharmaceuticals. And then I will show you some examples of World Star winners focusing on the pharmaceutical industry. Packaging really is it's not an easy task. It's we need to be compromising on different aspects. The most important role of packaging is the functional aspect, is to make the life of the consumer easy, to make our handling of the drugs, now we are talking of pharmaceutical, easy and convenient. But also it needs to be well designed, it needs to be attractive. Even for pharmaceuticals, we are seeing that drugs really need to be nice colors, nice typography, and they need to be legal. We need to also ensure compliance with regulation and standards. And when we come to cosmetics and pharmaceutical, they are even more strong, especially with also food, drug, and also our packaging nowadays, we are focusing a lot on sustainable packaging. So when we design packaging, even for the pharmaceutical sector, we need to take care about these 4 aspects. Now, after COVID, we all still, unfortunately, it's not yet gone. We are still being affected a lot by the COVID, and this affected also consumer behavior and consumer needs. The main impact out of COVID, the trends that will stay with us are the sustainability, design and hygiene in mind, and also e-commerce. Now, I don't know for pharmaceutical now, if we can still order some over-the-counter product online, I'm not sure, but this is the general trends after COVID, and most importantly, the emotional well-being. So even for the pharmaceutical sector, all the consumer, we have this guilt feeling, we have this eco-anxiety feeling for the earth, for the climate change, for the sustainability. And really, I have seen also the sustainability impact even on the design on the pharmaceutical, and we will see it later in the World Star example. So what are the global trends on the pharmaceutical packaging that were discussed by Andrew and Chakravarti? I will focus on them. First is the eco-friendly packaging. We can see also that most of the brands in the pharmaceutical sector, they are redesigning their packaging to ensure as much as possible less unrecyclable material. And also the counterfeiting issue, it's really a very serious issue. We will see how it's affecting health. And also the child-resistant packaging is also a main trend because, as Chakravarti said, a lot of problems are happening in this issue: convenient, smart technology, and accessible packaging. I will give examples to each one of them. So it's also different than other packaging for food product, because here we are talking safety should come always a priority, and therefore there should be a balance to ensure that a product will remain on having their aim, but also as much as possible to use sustainable and recycled material, and to, for example, as much as possible replacing non-recyclable plastic with paperboard and other material. So counterfeit, really, it's the main world's largest fraud market, because it's not affecting also money-wise, but it's also affecting the health of the consumers, and sometimes it's leading to death. And what is the solution? Using more digital mass sterilization and more the using of digital watermark, where we can, with our smartphone, make sure that these products are really authentic and are not counterfeit. Child-resistant packaging, as Chakravarti mentioned, it's a major problem, and that's why many pharmaceutical industry are investing to make sure that these packaging are not easy to be opened by the kids. But I'm telling you, there's a compromise, because really we want to make sure that it's not really easy accessible to kids, but in the same time they should be also easy to open for the elderly. And here comes really the complexity of the packaging industry. Also, let's talk about cannabis, especially that cannabis is now being regulated in many countries. So we see also the need for the pharmaceutical industry to more and more focus on the design of these packaging of these products. Now, technology, as we know, it's really number one in our life. Same for pharmaceutical agency, smart packaging, now wearable technology, like portable injectors. This is the future of pharmaceutical industry, to focus more and more on technology to make our life convenience, especially now after COVID. We see a lot of online coaching or online medicine with a doctor. So also there's a lot of strain on the pharmaceutical packaging industry to come up with a wearable or a very smart packaging for the pharmaceutical. Here, what I was talking about, really we need to find a compromise between the kids and between the elderly. Here what we talk about accessible packaging. Here also we want to take care about this segment, that they have some disability, and this is also a trend for the pharmaceutical industry to make sure that this medicine is really easy to be accessible. As Pierre said, I'm very honored really to manage World Star. World Star is the global packaging award organized by WPO, and it's really the crème de la crème. Why? Because we only accept the entries of winners. So people who want to apply to World Star, they have to be winners in their own country or in their own region. And the packaging competition that they apply for, we need to recognize it. So here I'm happy to show you some example of World Star winners across the years that they applied for the pharmaceutical entries. We just launched this year World Star, and now soon in 1 week we will be releasing the winners of 2022 next week, actually. So in WorldStar, we have 15 main category, and this year also we added 3 new categories that will be disclosed later on. But now we will focus on this segment, the medical and the pharmaceutical category. I will start with the President Award that was selected last year by our president. So this is from Paclock Company, and really it's a product from Switzerland. They managed to come up with a first child secure packaging, but also easy handling for the elderly and disabled people. So it needs less physical effort, and also how they type the names, the letters, it's easy to be visible for the elderly. And I want to show you here a very short video also on this product. So this was the example of Paclock. That's why it was the President Award winner. It's really the most prestigious award in WorldStar. And now we will go to some selection of other WorldStar category. Here we can see also this is a product by Australia. They are focusing, see, even the sustainability is happening in this sector. They want to provide 100% sustainable alternative to polystyrene in order to ensure the good transport of frozen vaccine with all components fully recyclable and compostable. Here we see the trend of sustainability. Another also important product, here also focusing on the biodegradable use, 100% ecological medication tray, which really is a brand, it's a German brand, focusing also on the use of sustainable and innovative packaging. Also another product from Japan. I was really amazed this year. The sustainability is all over, not only in the food sector, it's also in the pharmaceutical sector. Here also focusing on green PE bottle that they reduce CO2 emission as compared to petroleum-derived polyethylene bottles. So most of them, they are focusing on this trend to reflect the consumer needs and to reflect the commitment of the brand owner to the planet. Also, another example for syringe secondary packaging, also the packaging is designed for recyclability. Also, they are using as much as possible paperboard, and the inner tray can be easily removed to maintain low environmental impact and to minimize packaging weight in comparison to paper board. Also, another example here, it's about convenience. As we said, convenience is also one of the main trends for the pharmaceutical sector. So here, this Neopack from Switzerland, they have developed this kind of tube where the application is very easy and very convenient, where it treats without the finger contact. And here, when we talk about hygienic things, so it's very important in the design of the pharmaceutical packaging. Also, another example is this kind of packaging. Also, they are focusing on the sustainable aspect, and they design it with 50% improvement in footprint and other aspects. Another convenient aspect is Voltaren. It's easy to open, and here it's also focusing on the accessible and people with limited abilities. They can open it with one finger or with the palm of their hand, and even with on the edge of the table. So here it's also focusing on convenience and the accessible packaging design aspect. Also, this kind of packaging for pharmaceutical, they are focusing also on the convenience and how to improve the quality of life by the details that is provided in the use of this medication to support patients in really the narrow use of the motion that they want to apply this product on their skin. Another also interesting packaging is also how to handle, especially when we talk about vaccine or syringe. So we need really to ensure the temperature and all of this component in the use and the transport of this medication. Here also another example, also to ensure this packaging for the operation. So the presentation also, they are using small footprint, double sterile barrier blister. It allows the implant to be used surgically without having need to touch the product prior to use it. And here we are focusing on the hygienic aspect for these special products. Another example of the use of blister, here they are combining product protection and convenience because it's easy to open, and each table is protected by this activated product. Another example from Switzerland also, this is the world's first thermoform dry powder inhaler. It's also very convenient, and it has been used a lot in the third world country. We see also it's very light and also zero assembly, and it's less CO2 production and carbon footprint. So we really can go more and more with a lot of amazing example of world star. I wish I have more time, but I would love to hear your question to discuss the importance and the global trend for the pharmaceutical industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Soha. You know, it's always good to see what's what's out there, and especially in the pharmaceutical sector, because that's not always the area that let's say the person out there in the street sees. In food they see all those new things happening across the world, but not always in pharma. So when we see yours in your presentation there, and you showed the different ideas that are coming through, it really complements to a large extent what Chakravarti was showing in his presentation, also what Andrew was showing in his. So thank you very much for that. Thanks for bringing your expertise to this event. Okay, so we now are moving into a panel discussion. So please don't hesitate to send through your questions to me via Informa Markets, and those on YouTube will see the links to do that. So can I kick off with Andrew? He's been waiting very patiently since he presented. Andrew, I'm very aware that you are the communications director for APIA. APIA being, just reminding our listeners, that APIA is the Active and Intelligent Packaging Industry Association, if I'm not mistaken. And great to have someone that's, very so involved in that organization, because we're seeing more and more of it across happening in our packaging. However, my question is simple. When I am presenting in various parts of the world or lecturing, one of the things that when I come to smart packaging being active and intelligent packaging, the question often is asked more so from, let's say, let's say the more of the developing countries, their question always is, but that stuff that you are showing us now is expensive. It all looks good, but it's too pricey for the product. What's your take on that, and what's your comment?
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple of slides in my presentation, Pierre, which showed that there are major attempts to deliver more scalable, cost-effective solutions, and even companies like Avery Dennison are working with other people in that area, because yeah, I mean, the one thing we can't get away from is that if you add a smart device to a pack, it adds some element of cost to it, and who bears that cost you know, can vary. I mean, normally one would expect, say, the pharmaceutical company to want to have some of the security features and the market diversion features or the communication features that we can provide, but there, you know, obviously at some cost element, there are some technologies that like the e-leaflet thing that I mentioned briefly, which could be very, very cheap to implement, because it's basically a piece of software. But we have to accept two things, and I'll add an element in which you may get to, is that one, smart packaging does add a cost, and one of the challenges that the smart packaging sector has to do is to bring this cost down and the scalability up. And two, a lot of packaging innovation has been, and Sahar just gave us plenty of good examples of that, are being blown off course by the fact that everyone wants to go sustainable. Everybody needs to have a sustainable pack. Now, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that sometimes there's only so much money in the innovation budget, and sometimes that money has gone wholeheartedly into biodegradability or sustainability or lightweighting or reducing or changing the plastic formulations. And I'm glad to see in Sohar's presentation that some of these have actually gone through life cycle analysis, because one of the things that worries me about this is the great rush to a sustainable pack can often be detrimental in the long run across the whole life cycle of the product. So, you know, it's a bit of a cri de coeur, but we've got to help ourselves, and we've also got to educate people a bit more about the benefits across the whole life cycle of the product, and not just about this is a clever device doing a particular job. Does it actually add value? Does that sort of...
Well, I mean, you've given a lot, and there are two things here. I want to hear what Chakravarti has to say on the same matter, because you know he's very involved from a packaging printing perspective. Number one, Chakravarti, we're very aware for the listeners. Chakravarti is on his way to deliver an important keynote address at the Confederation of Indian Industry. And I know that you have to go. But before you go, I wonder if you can give your comment on what Andrew has said there from your perspective. And then I have an add-on question straight after that. Thank you. Your microphone.
Well, Pierre, every stakeholder has to understand this pharmaceutical industry hasn't had any scope for 0.001% defect. When you are saying the quality in all the respects, it has to be 100% perfect, be it data, be it medicinal efficacy, be it packaging, anywhere. In my perspective, in my personal view, being in the industry directly associated with pharmaceutical in particular for almost 2.5 decades, every problem could have been avoided. Every problem could have been avoided. So as I was telling you, stop, look again applies not just for ingesting medicines and not just for accessing the medicines, right? But it comes through entire value chain, especially the onus lies with the product managers and the packaging managers, developers, R&D people. Right from the instant, they have to look all, not just regulations. Keep the patient in your mind. The medicine is to be taken by the patient ultimately. So if you have a will not to make any mistakes, even by ignorantly, I think most of the things will be solved. So for that, the innovations always help you. You need to take the access of the latest innovations. And there are enough platforms to get access to the technologies for implementation.
Okay, so having said what you've said, it was there's an expense there that both of you touched on, Andrew, probably significantly so. In your presentation, Chakravarti, you mentioned bringing aspects that ensured that we didn't have mix-up of drugs, etc., etc. And a lot of onus and a lot of responsibility is being put on the pharmacist, which is difficult. We're all humans, we make human errors. There's a bit of an imbalance here, or dichotomy. How do you see this aspect of controlling the cost, but ensuring that we don't have mix-ups?
Well, you might laugh at me if I answer you in this way, but what needs at this point is the conviction, the determination, and to do correctly. And you have enormous solutions, the cost-effective solutions. Even Manly can suggest you millions, if not tens of suggestions for that to avoid this. Of course, at the end of the day, the man-made errors are always there, but to preempt them, the technology is really helping us. One has to have that knack to access the technology, implement it, convince his peers and also the CEOs of the company how it is going to help them in the market. A simple value addition, a simple cost addition will go a long way. It's a big value addition, big boost for the brand, big help for the end customers. This is what required at this point of time. And whatever you think are the small errors during the manufacturing and the distribution life cycle, they cannot be ignored. That's my point very clearly, because you have solutions, Pierre. Believe me, you have solutions for every problems. The only thing is you need to have that conviction and determination to access them and implement them. And at the same time, the process should not be delayed. You are in a rush to introduce your medicines in the market, but within the stipulated period, you need to do all this homework by yourself. Can't be anymore. No shortcuts.
Yeah, there are no shortcuts. You're right. You're dealing with lives, so certainly so. Chakravarti, I know you have to go, so whenever you need to slip away, just slip away. And thank you very much for joining us. Soha,
thank you so very much.
Sure. Soha, you're a lot involved in colors and branding and the graphic side of things, and we all listened very intently to what Chakravarti was saying, and it's. From what I saw, I came out of that industry, so I realized, that responsibility aspect on the pharmacist. So you, and I'm saying you because you're one of them, you're a graphic designer. Why do you do these things? Why don't you make it better and easier for the pharmacist?
You're putting the responsibility on me.
I like being the moderator.
Until now, I don't own a pharmaceutical company. Maybe we will see. But I will tell you something. If I will be owning, or if I will be working on the design of some pharmaceutical product, I will be really taking into consideration all these aspects that Chakravarti mentioned them, especially regarding the color coding, especially regarding the similarities between two different brands. We really need to avoid them. Like, I will tell you, and you know this, I have more experience in designing food product. And for the food product, we take a lot of consideration for the allergy statement. For example, we will put gluten-free or may contain gluten in a very bold manner to make sure that this will not affect the health. So as a designer, we really need to take into consideration the regulation and the compliance. But as you said, somebody needs to tell us about this regulation. So the design is about implementing the regulation and the labeling requirement. As a design, we cannot come up only by ourselves. Andrew?
Okay. I hear you, but you're not completely off the hook. And I'll come back to you. I want to go to Andrew. Andrew, go ahead. Go ahead.
What I was going to say is I have every sympathy for you. So I mean, I was appalled watching Chakravarti's presentation, how similar some of the packs were containing different pills. I mean, that's easy to put them in a different coloured board or whatever. Also, I was even more appalled at watching people doing 300 prescriptions a day, basically using a ruler and a counter. You know, they're not even doing automatic counting, and that's the responsibility of people like CVS and Walmart, who are dispensing all these blooming drugs, to invest in some technology. I mean, you could invest in a code reader or a vision system on the pack, which identifies the product as being the product that you want. I'm not saying it's a simple solution, but the problem that I have is I can't act upon the safety and security until it's inside the pack. Once it's out of the pack, then it's the responsibility of the poor devil who's actually dispensing it, which you can help up to a certain point in the chain, and then it's down to them. And I can actually understand people under pressure making mistakes. I mean, it's how we can actually come up with solutions for them, both in my area and in Sohar's area, to ameliorate that, to make it a bit better. You're never going to dispense with it altogether.
You know, I do recall in my early years, having come out in that pharmaceutical environment, and on a busy day, on a really busy day, I might have done maybe just on 100 prescriptions. And that was a busy day, like really busy. You know, you come away there thinking, wow, I hope I haven't made an error somewhere. So to do 300, wow, I mean, that's just beyond my understanding. And I know what 100's like, so I'd hate to make 300. So, but Andrew, let's just come back to your presentation, because you had some really good stuff there. Now, I can tell you, because the World Packaging Organization is very much together with an organization called SMP, Sustainable Medicines Partnership. And now these are all pharmaceutical companies and medical suppliers and stuff that focus on the sustainable side of their product and packaging altogether. I can tell you that in the supply chain, and this is where I come to you, because you were talking about control of temperature. You may recall that slide, right? They, across the world, throw away $14 billion of drugs, of pharmauticals, because they breached the supply chain control. Yeah, correct. Now, the aspects that you were dealing with there, I mean, that's in principle smart packaging. So if this smart packaging is so smart, why can't you fix this problem?
Good. The solution is there. Whether you want a very simple low-cost solution like that temp strip thing that I showed you, which can be added to a carton of cartons, if you like, or whether you want to go to the more sophisticated systems like Blue Log or Infratab or American Thermal. There are solutions there. It's a question of, do people want to use them? I mean, or do they rely on the efficacy of the cool bag or the cool carton without actually testing it? I mean, it's not expensive, Pierre, to add a small strip, a one-off, one-time use strip to the consignment, and it sort of works. And they're getting more sophisticated, they're getting more refined, even the cheaper ones. It's a question of adoption and willpower, I would think. I mean, or do people know that these things exist? I mean, my creed occurred for the next few years is going to be, how do we educate people about some of the solutions that are out there? You know, the first 5 years was about testing the efficacy of the solution. Second 5 years was about making sure that the brands understood what the benefits were. And we get the fact that they sort of get it now. And this is across the whole piece: food, beverage, pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, luxuries, whatever. The next 5 years has got to be, well, how do we actually get people to understand what to do with these clever bits of technology, and that they are affordable and can save you, you know, $14 billion worth of drugs thrown into chaos, you know. And I mean, I hate to think how many vaccines have been wasted. Nobody's telling us. It's crazy when you actually do have, I mean, you know, if somebody doesn't want to use them, even though you know that they're okay, then that's up to them. We can't stop that, but we can actually tell them that they're fit to use.
Well, you know what, we can, Soha has a solution for you, because these brilliant Max designs, ideas that you presented, we're not seeing that on the global arena. Soha, can you give Andrew an idea of what he can do in incorporating it into World Star so that they get the platform of exposure?
True. As I said, for World Star, they really need to be a winner in their national or regional area. So I don't know what is the origin of these packs. So if they have a national competition in their country, they can apply to this competition. And we need to recognize as the WPO this recognition. So if you need any support later on, we can have a discussion. Even if you don't have a national competition, we can support you to establish your own competition, and then we can get this competition accredited. Because really these packs need visibility on the global level so that other people might get inspired and do the same.
Yeah. Andrew, any comment?
Yeah, I think one issue is that there are no competitions that I know of. I mean, in Holland we have the Golden Nut, I think, and in UK there's the Star Packs, etc. But none of them have a category for smart packaging. Partly, maybe that's our fault. Partly because it's very new.
I can also guide you to some competition, like you have Packaging Europe. That is, you don't have only to apply to a national competition. Like Packaging Europe, it's involved all European country. Even we have some German company who apply to Packaging Europe. Also, you can apply to Austria Packaging. I'm sure Netherlands, because we have some winners from Netherlands or.
Yeah, there are a couple of competitions.
I can send you a list of our endorsed packaging competition. So you can ask your company to apply.
I mean, you know, that's part of the recognition journey. Talking back to Pierre's point, yeah, we would love to have more visibility. And I mean, Pierre and I have had a conversation about a smart packaging category in World Star, but you know, if we're going to have to qualify through national or regional competitions, at the moment that's quite hard because not many of those competitions have a smart packaging category. So you know, work in progress, I suppose.
For sure, work in progress. You know, we are open to, as you and I have discussed, of having a category that deals with such an important portfolio as smart packaging. But it's that feeder program that Soha was referring to. So Soha, maybe offline, and you can liaise with Andrew and talk about the ones in Europe and so on. But
I say one very important thing, Pierre.
Yeah.
I mean, we have noticed even in just the last 6 months that there are lots of the big brand owners across the piece, not just in pharmaceuticals, but there are big brand owners now who are setting up innovation departments looking particularly specifically at smart packaging.
Yeah.
So that's progress from now. And the point is they're also being a lot more strategic in what they're looking at. It's not just looking at everything. They're actually looking at specific stuff. So that's real progress from our perspective. Yeah. And we expect to see some of the fruits of that in the coming year or two.
I want to move on to counterfeit packaging because it touches both of you. The World Health Organization estimates about 10% of all pharmaceuticals are counterfeit, roughly. And I mean, that's a huge amount. That's significant. You have described many ways of overcoming that. Now, I remember at least 5 years ago, that figure was about there as well. And now 5 years later, it's still about there, 10%. Why and what can smart packaging do to overcome this 10% or whatever it is, or the amounts of product that is counterfeit?
Well, I mean, one of the first slides I showed you was a traceability or authentication system from a company called Systec, which doesn't even actually require you to change anything on the pack. It just requires you to buy an authentication a system that says this code is unique to that particular pack based on an existing barcode or QR code. So it's not exactly a lot of money to actually do that. And there are loads, as you say, I think I probably mentioned half a dozen anti-counterfeit solutions out there. There's price points. That's one of the issues. Depending on the value of the drug, and one of the things that we've got to do is drive that price down so that they're cost effective for the if you like, the lower price point drugs, more OTC types of things. It's education. It's getting out there and telling the story and making sure. I mean, also, I think, you know, to be fair to the industry, the market's expanded a lot in the pharmaceutical sector in the last few years, and keeping up with some of the just production issues is probably going to be, innovation issues on other areas of packaging is causing the stress in the pharmaceutical sector. That's not an excuse; it's a fact of life. Yeah, we've got work to do to get those solutions out there, and there are plenty of people who are using them. And one of the other things I would say is you have to understand that the counterfeiters are clever, and as fast as we come up with ideas, they can come up with counter ideas. And again, not an excuse, fact of life. They come up with one of the slides that Chakravarti had showed that there was a very small percentage of drugs that were being used in original packaging. I mean, that's a bigger problem in other areas like spirit brands, alcohol brands, stuff like that. But that's still an issue. We've got to get out there and make sure that we get more of these solutions into more pharmaceutical companies. I agree.
So what is your? I mean, you do a lot of designing and that side of things. I mean,
yes.
This crossed your mind, even in the food industry, any industry. You know, what's the solution from your perspective?
The solution is in digital watermark, and the solution is in putting, now with the use of smartphone all over the world for kids even. So is really to put some kind of codes that hoping that these people cannot copy it or access it, but really with digital watermarks, especially with a lot of cosmetic, we are using it in the Middle East, and a kind that you look into the product, you see it's original or not, or with using digital barcode where you can scan it and go directly to make sure that it's authentic or not. I guess with the use of smartphone, the issue of counterfeit will become less and less. But as Andrew said, the issue of the awareness is really to increase awareness. These companies really need to increase awareness and ads for the consumer, how to make sure that this is the authentic product or not. So as a designer, we will make sure to put these digital watermarks and the digital barcodes, but the companies themselves need to invest in media campaign to teach their consumers how to make sure that their product, especially when we're talking about pharmaceutical, because it's really can affect our life. Really, we need education and awareness on the consumer level as well.
Yeah, 100% agree.
I know we could go on and on, because it's fascinating and it's interesting, and the three of us are passionate about packaging.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I have to bring it to an end. But I want one more question for each of you, because we've got literally 1 minute. So each of you have 30 seconds. Andrew, my question to you is, what, in relation to Smart Packaging, is your message out to everyone out there, particularly the pharmaceutical companies? What, as a communications director of APIA, what is your message to them in 30 seconds?
That it is accessible and it's affordable and can really add value, security to and value to the consumer to solve, as Soha said, some of the problems which are so easily accessible via a phone. And the more we get out there, the more they'll get used, the better the problem solving will become. On your anti-counterfeit or provenance and stuff like that.
Good. And so as a final wrap up from a World Star Awards system and program that you so efficiently run for us, what is your message to manufacturers? What should they be doing to be able to expose themselves more so out in the market?
You mean on the market or to apply for World Star? I didn't get it.
Well, for them to get their message out there, how can they best use the advantages of the World Star program to their benefit?
Yes, World Star, as I said, not because I'm running it, but really it's the global most prestigious packaging award for the packaging industry. And we really need to have more and more pharmaceutical entries. So far, we have a lot of food and beverage entries, but as we can see, pharmaceutical is really life-threatening. It's very important, especially after COVID and the need for a lot of immunity booster and the vaccine and all of this. So I really advise all the packaging industry to benefit from this global platform, because really, WPO, we have 66 members, and each year we are having more members. So I really encourage you to apply to your national or regional competition. And if you need any support or any help, we are here. Our contact, our website is here, and we can support you. And as my message from a packaging designer point of view, really, we need a good brief as a design. Even like the food, the pharmaceutical also needs to be catchy, needs to differentiate between different over-the-counter or medicine product in order to save life. Because with better packaging design, better use of color, more legible text, sometimes with simple issue like font, like being bold, you can save life and avoid the human error.
Well, thank you very much to both of you, and also to Chakravarti, who has already left us. The World Packaging Organization and Informal Market, CPHI, certainly thank you hugely that you shared your immense knowledge and experience in a field that really affects every single one of us. Thank you for being so open and detailed in your presentations, and really ensuring that in the questions you gave a positive, but looking at both sides of the coin, really, you gave a positive, open view of in answering your questions. So thank you very much. You, Andrew Manley in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, thank you very much. To Chakravarti in Hyderabad, but at the moment in New Delhi in India, thank you very much. And then also to Soha Atla in Beirut in Lebanon, thank you for your time, and all go well. And for those celebrating Christmas, have a great Christmas. And for those who are having a holiday break, enjoy your holiday. Thank you and good day.